Funding for what I do is provided in part by my generous supporters on Patreon, and by direct donations from viewers like you. Thank you! Hey everyone, Calvin here, and I wanted to talk a bit tonight about the GNU GPL license. Some of you might have remembered me teasing that back in Blinkio's April Fool's video, but it's actually something that I do want to talk about. There's two prominently used versions of the GPL license, version 2 and version 3. Version 2 is what the Linux kernel currently uses, and version 3 is what a lot of other projects use, and what I like to use. There's quite a bit of contention in the FOSS community about which one's better, and I just felt like I would throw in my 2 cents. So, the differences between the GPL, for those of you who don't know yet, I should explain what GPL is. It is a software license that is copyleft, and what this means is software that you make with it must remain open source. If you take from it and use that code in your own software, you must release the software under the same license, so GPL 2 or 3, whichever you're using. And GPL 2 has a few loopholes in it that have allowed people to get away with a few things that I really don't agree with, and this goes into why I agree with GPL 3 more than 2. So the differences between them is that GPL 2 allows, to my knowledge, for a code author, programmer, blah, to retract code that they've written, which seems like a really, really bad thing to me. Like, being able to take the license back, basically, and make that code closed source again. This is really bad because if code becomes like the linchpin of a particular program and it gets taken out, that'll just break it. It'll just, just completely break the project. And if no one is able to rewrite the code in a way that would get around the copyright, like, that might be a hard thing to do. If no one can do it, then the project is essentially dead. So I don't like that. And the second thing is TiVoization. This is a practice where a hardware manufacturer will lock down hardware so that you at least cannot easily change the software on it. This was coined by Richard Stallman in response to TiVo locking down their devices so that people couldn't replace the software running on it. And I'm totally against TiVoization myself. I know there's a lot of people out there who will say, but it's the developer's right. And I understand where they're coming from, but here's my thing. When it comes to deciding like what is the best way to, what is the best license to use, how to go about things ethically, things like that, my philosophy is simple: minimize harm. And in the case of software freedom, mine is minimize the amount of rights being taken away. Now, this might be confusing to some people who think that the GPL3 is taking away more developer rights, and in a way, it kind of is, but look at it like this. First off, the Free Software Foundation was started not with developer rights in mind, but user rights. And when a developer locks down software, they take away rights from the user to do what they want with the copy that is in their possession. I don't know why they would want to do that anyway in most cases. I mean, the copy is no longer theirs. Who cares what the user does with it? Especially in the case of hardware. You should be allowed to run whatever you want on hardware that you own. So, yeah, why restrict that? So GPL 3 doesn't allow TiVoization and leans more towards user rights. Now, some people will argue over what's more important, developer rights or user rights. I'm going to say that this argument should not exist. It's user rights for the reason that not all users are developers, but all developers are users. If you limit developer rights in some ways, but in ways that don't limit user rights, great. But if you limit user rights, you're also limiting developer rights. So no matter what, some developer is going to have their rights limited. You absolutely cannot have absolute freedom for everyone. It's impossible. Someone's going to want to do something that will in some way impair or infringe someone else's freedom. If you go completely Wild West, you're going to have people who will do whatever they want, but usually at the cost of what someone else wants. It's just impossible for everyone to get what they want completely. So I pick the license that maximizes the amount of rights that people have. And in this case, that's the GPL 3. And that's also why I don't use permissive licenses that allow people to completely close source their software. I am completely against that because it enables developers to limit the freedom of their fellow developers and users. It limits developers in that if a piece of software is closed source, others cannot learn from it and use it in their own programming, and also limits users, prevents users from being able to vet the code, prevents them from being able to modify it or to install mods that others make. The more locked down software is, yeah, it's only benefiting a few, but the many will suffer for it. So that's why I pick GPL 3, and that's also why I copyleft everything I make. All my original arts are under Creative Commons share alike, and all my code is GPL 3. So yeah, that's pretty much my stance on it. If you guys have any questions, anything you'd like me to elaborate on, or even any reason why you would disagree, I totally don't mind if anyone disagrees. You are completely within your rights to be wrong. you you have permission to be wrong. You don't need to ask me for that. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you will join me next time.